Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of Tips from TTO, the tax office. That's right here in St. Charles, Missouri. Been around since 1984. Greg Hansen. Tax preparation.
You name it, we do it.
Payroll, accounting,
Yes.
services, business startups, all your consulting needs right here. And we have the accounting and payroll specialist for the tax office with us. As always, Megan Walder. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm good. I don't know, we've got so many things talking about. I really enjoy listening to Mark Cox on my morning drive into the office. Not because I agree with everything of this or that, but I like the fact that he's talking about local and state politics.
Absolutely, yes.
And we're Missourians here.
That's what we have control over.
I think that's where things start.
Absolutely.
And we've got a topic today that starts at home.
It
correct?
starts right at home in your very local communities.
And we're all keyed up. Most people are all keyed up on the national stuff, the border, this, that, and underneath all that, what's going on in our local communities,
right here,
business wise. How do we make sure we're paying attention?
Absolutely.
Right?
You can get distracted very easy with the national scene of what's going on. So
yeah, and that's what we want to do here with Tips from TTO is talk about these types of things. Do you have any tips, or are we just going right into it?
No.
I'm kidding.
Tips: keep open, stay open. That's my tip for the day.
Yeah, and there's some that right there. Get back to business as usual.
Absolutely,
as quickly as you possibly can. Things are opening up. Get people back in. Make people feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand. With the mask mandates and all this nonsense that's been going on, and I do say nonsense. I know some people agree and some people don't agree with that. That's okay.
And you're right.
This is still the United States of America. But let's get back to business as usual. Let's get people, if you want to wear a mask when you're out, do
Absolutely.
it. If you don't, that's fine too. Let's make sure we get people feeling back to normal.
Yeah, let's get back to business. Let's get people back to work. Unemployment rates they're skyrocketing due to all of this so-called free money that is floating around, and it's hurting businesses. It's hurting corporations as we see the IRS. A small business is considered 500 employees or less. That's a lot of people that are not in our workforce right now due to, people being scared and the fear that's out there. Open back up.
I don't think it's so much fear. And this is what's going on, and I'm going to bring this up, and this is part of our local community. I hear this every single day. Businesses are not being able to operate the way they need to because the federal government is saturating the market with this free money.
Nothing is
How
free.
How many people know what the number trillion means? Does anybody know what the number trillion means? Do you?
It's a lot of zeros.
I'll put it into perspective for you, okay? This is some perspective. He proposed a $4.5 trillion deal.
It's a good chunk of change.
Dear Jesus, help us.
Right.
1 trillion. 1 trillion seconds ago was 38,000 years ago.
Really?
Yes. 1 trillion seconds is 38,000 years ago. So tell me.
We weren't
and
here, were we?
Now think about this, Megan. Think about this already.
Oh my gosh.
The nation itself, the United States of America, is already $28 trillion in debt.
I knew that number.
Now that gives you a little bit of an idea of the perspective of the
oh my gosh.
the
That's
mess
unreal.
that we're in.
Yeah.
And so yes.
Man, yeah.
And we're sending people at home. People aren't going back to work because they're crushing these small businesses. And Megan,
yeah, let's get into this. To our fellow business people out there and our owners and small businesses tend to 20 to 500. Here's something to think about. Are you ready? And how can we prepare for the upcoming tax increases for our top earners, our small business owners? We want to remember that businesses considered 500 employees or less are small businesses, not just our mom and pop, 10 to 20, even 100 employees. That's known as our micro businesses, but companies that employ large majority of Americans as well. So we need to be ready for what's coming locally and statewide. So I first want to talk about our minimum wage increase from Missouri that was put in motion about 2 years ago. The increase is gradually increasing over 4 years, time frame. Current minimum wage is $10.30. So that was, in going into 2021. In 2022, you're going to see a hike of 85 cents. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's going to jump the minimum wage to $11.15. By 2023, you're going to see another 85 cents of $12 an hour. Are you ready for that? What is that going to look like for your small business over the next 2 years? And how do you prepare for that? When we think of 85 cents, that's chump change.
But you're talking about 85 cents an hour.
85 cents an hour. So when you break that down, we're going to make this as simple as possible. I'm going to throw a couple numbers at you, okay? So a 52-week an hour employee is at 40 hours, which, is pretty, on top of the game, 40 hours. 1030 times 40 equals 412. That's a gross income versus 1115 at 40 hours is 446. It doesn't seem like a big increase. That's $34 times 52 weeks. That's going to be an additional cost in 1 year for one employee, $1,768 per one employee. Times that by 10. If you've got 10 employees, which is not a lot. When you think about it, think about your big corporations, which is, a 500 or less is considered a small business, times that by the 1,768. That can get pretty costly, which is not including that. That's just the increase for the dollar amount for the employee. You also need to consider benefits that you offer your employees, bonuses that you offer, insurance premium costs, which are increasing or steadily increasing over the next couple of years, as we can see. And then any additional things that you might give your employees. You say that you have 8. When you think about, I'm going to have to spend another $1,700 for each employee. What does that look like long term for your employees?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider.
Yes.
And this is what's happening across the board, I think, in much of this conversation.
Yes.
Is the fact that we are not dealing with just, my employee giving somebody a raise.
Absolutely. You think about 85 cents. Okay.
You're talking about an 8, and I know there's a lot of people that look that way and look at it. Well, it's just
only
like giving
85
them
cents.
It's like giving them $1 raise.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Which is a good chunk of change.
Well, but usually you've given a raise to somebody because they've earned that, and the money is available because there's an increase in sales
due to their performance.
Yeah, you're getting that thought process there. Well, if my revenue, my sales revenue, and whatever that is, services or product, is down, but yet I've got to give them $1 raise across the board, not on merit or anything like that, because the government told me.
Yep.
Well, then that becomes, and listen, I'm not arguing pro or con here. I'm just talking about what's going to happen. This is the case.
Right. Whether you're for the minimum wage increase, which I am not against a $12 minimum wage by any stretch of the imagination. That is a good dollar. That's a decent dollar amount to be able to continue being in the workforce, feeding your family, doing whatever it is that you have to do. However, from a business standpoint, where does that money come from? I don't think most people in general in the workforce don't think about where does that money come from. I know, as a restaurant manager, I always had to think when raises came out or minimum wages, can I operate with the same amount of people or do I need to cut people, which creates job loss?
Let's look at perspective. Sorry. I'm just going to put myself in this, okay? I'm going to date myself.
You're going to date yourself.
1985, 86. I'm in school.
Yep.
I'm in college. I'm working my way through college.
Absolutely.
I'm paying my own way, okay? I'm working for a grocery company in Southern California.
Okay.
Minimum wage at that time was right around $5.35.
In the 80s?
In the 80s. I'm pretty sure somewhere
Was it?
around there.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm not looking it up.
Right.
I'll look it up here in a minute. But at that time, I was topping out. I'd worked my way up, worked my way through it. I was making $12.51 an hour.
Ooh, that was a good chunk of change back in the
Now
80s.
think about what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
See if we're at 535 there, maybe it was 7. I can't remember. I'm going to look. But look at that. Look at the difference in that. Mm-hmm. And so we're now at, think about the inflationary rate.
The inflation, and yes, and that was my next, kind of segue into that. What does that look like for small businesses in the sense of somebody making $12 an hour could possibly be making 15 or 16, but due to the inflation and due to the higher cost with taxes, as a small business owner, we are responsible for paying the other half of Social Security wages, taxes, and the Medicare cost of that. That increases as well when you make more money, when that minimum wage goes up. So that's an additional cost for small businesses. You offer a week's paid vacation. That 85 cents an hour still is involved in that vacation piece of the puzzle. So there are a lot of things to consider when 85 cents is involved. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but $1,700 to a small business owner with 10 employees is a good chunk of change. Where does that $1,700 times 5 employees, 10 employees, where does that money come from? It's got to come from somewhere.
We were talking earlier about trying to fathom $1 trillion.
Oh my gosh, okay. Yeah.
In 1985, minimum wage was?
Depending on when it was, that's when I was born.
I know, that's what I was saying. The year you was born, right? $3.35.
I thought it was a little bit lower than that. Yeah, so
$3.35.
We can't even fathom that dollar amount.
That's a gallon of gas.
Yeah. In some places, like New York and California, yeah.
it has been under different
administrations. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. $3.35. So, whoa.
From then, what we're talking 85. So 36, because I'm 36 years old. In 36 years, we went from that dollar amount to, in some places, depending on where you're at, 12, 13, 14, some minimum wages are 16, 17. Mm-hmm. So we've definitely seen that inflation over the last 30 plus years.
And what does that create? That creates increase in products, the price of products.
For our consumer.
It increases in the costs of goods sold.
Yes, when we look at it from an accounting standpoint, yes, it does.
You're talking, how do you produce that same item for the same amount of money as it was? I'm not talking about going back to sweatshops and all that.
Oh, absolutely not.
But this is what we're dealing with, what we're facing. And you bring up a good question. How do we do that?
Well, yeah, where does that money come from? So, you think about it from a gallon of milk. So, make simplicity rules, $2 a gallon now, and we raise the minimum wage. What does that look like? That gallon of milk is going to go up. It just, from a simplicity standpoint,
cost of living goes up.
It's got to come from somewhere. And the thought process is, well, the corporations can afford it. Let's reel that in and say, from IRS standards, a small business is considered 500 employees or less. That's not big when we think of big corporations like Amazon and Walmart.
Yeah.
They're not the only ones. They're probably least affected by those versus us
Well,
mom and pop places.
but if you look at the statistics, 92% of the companies in the United States
Working
as
class.
of 2000, just
a couple years ago.
19, were considered small business
or less.
or less or under that.
Yeah.
92%.
Of the workforce is in the population of small businesses.
That's correct.
And that, so it does affect us. So, and are you ready for that? What does that look like going into that next year? I know we're still kind of in the beginning stages of 2021, but you have to start looking of where that $1,700 is going to come from. And we're talking about employees that are just making the minimum wage, $10.30. What if you have an employee making $10.95 already, or, $11 already, or even that $11.15 mark? If you have an employee making already $12 an hour, are they going to expect a raise because everybody else got a raise? You got to think about how an employee thinks.
Yeah,
you really do.
And then how are you competing with the United States government?
Absolutely.
Who is just spending trillions of dollars at will and sending it to people, and people are getting double the money from the government.
Yep.
When are they going to stop that nonsense? And where does that money come from?
Yes.
Well, if there is no companies, if there's no small business to pay taxes, where are they getting that money to pay these people to sit at home? Because that's what's happening.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the hiring world out there is definitely it's a beast. And it's always been a beast, but it's treacherous now.
and here's the other thing I've heard of there's a franchise in McDonald's in Florida that was paying people $50 just to show up for an interview. Just to show up for an interview, folks.
Goodness.
And now here in Missouri, they're trying to, and like I said, do I care? Is it a thought process that I think $12 minimum wage is a bad thing? No,
I don't. No,
I don't have a problem with people making money. I don't. But sometimes we're taking it out of the purview of the consumer to the business person, and giving that free market look that says if I've got a solid staff, if I'm taking care of my employees, I'm doing things because my business is growing and I'm taking care of my staff and I'm doing this, there's a ceiling for everybody. I don't care what you say, there is a ceiling for everybody.
And it ain't glass.
No.
You're not going to be able to break through it.
There's at one point you can only pay your employees so much because your percentages and then your expense to labor to revenue becomes
out of whack.
That's where it is.
It does.
So what are you doing? And as a business owner, do I reap the benefits of my own investment?
Right.
Yes.
And we talk about employees. You know, we've talked about employee hiring several times on this show about they are your number one investment. In hiring the right people for the right position, having aces in places, and it is your number one investment. And now more than ever, due to higher taxes and higher minimum wages, it's even more of an investment and more of a thought process that you should be thinking about right now. Don't wait to that last minute of going into 2022 going, because where am I going to find an additional 10 grand to pay my employees?
Because in the end, this ends up being more than just a business question, doesn't it?
It does.
Now people start getting into, you can put it like this, the morality of it, and this is where we've gone to.
Yeah.
What are people thinking? How do I take care of somebody? And that's what's going on in our world today. And as we look at this as, I'm a micro business owner. I'm a family-owned business. Well, okay. We want to eventually, hopefully if we grow, we will hire people. We will bring that.
Absolutely.
But what are we looking at? When I see these types of things, what does that mean for my company? And what does that mean for me when I go to set that in motion?
Set that in motion. Mm-hmm.
So now the thought process goes to where do we grow to? How far can we grow? And what does that mean for us as a business?
Right.
when you're thinking, looking ahead and how you project your company's growth,
yes,
these are things that really have to come into play.
Right. And, and we talked about budgeting a lot in 2020 because it was, it's a big subject. Big corporations, we talk about big corporations, but, a 500, people business, that's a pretty big, business there. A 3 to 5 year plan is what they have. So as a micro business, that same thought process needs to be in the works, as well as, making sure you move forward with that type of,
If you're employing 50 people, you have your staff and all that, you're employing 50 people, right? 85 cents an hour across the board and you may have people up that may not, but if you say 50% of that, you're going to have to give a rate increase of 85 cents an
Absolutely.
hour. That's a lot of money per year. And as you said, where's that money coming from?
Where's that money come from?
Have we increased sales? And that's the thing. We're coming out of this 2020 disaster.
You're right.
And
literally.
Is the revenue there to take on that increase that Missouri's getting ready to put into action, right?
And keep the sales growth. The sales growth that you might have. Where does that money go into? Labor, XYZ. So, I will. I'm going to send this over to the guys here at REP and get some information on our website to have some calculations on there for you, so you can kind of get an idea. If you've got questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
And I think this is what we want. We want to look at this, have this open conversation as much as possible. Where
I'm not trying to scare you.
It's not about
absolutely.
People shouldn't be scared.
No, don't be scared.
It's not about being scared. It's about being proactive. It's about looking at business, understanding what's happening around us, and making informed decisions about how we move forward.
Yeah.
We all want to stay in business. We all want to do these things. That's why we got into business.
That's why we got into business. We want to be our own boss.
Yeah. And but with that comes accountability and the responsibility when you have employees working for you.
Yeah, they're relying
taking
on
care
you.
of that. Yes,
they're relying on you, and those great employees do rely on their employers.
And if the relationship is good, building that trust, building that relationship, building that employer-employee relationship is huge.
It is huge.
I know
it was my number one thing as a general manager. You betcha.
Human resources is, we call it HR, human resources. Well. It's just a matter of we got the tornado sirens.
We do, yes.
We got the test.
First Monday of the month.
But what we're dealing with here is more than just a thought process to how we deal with these things. It's a matter of how do we see the people working for us?
Right.
Are they actually part of our business and part of our future and people that we care about? Or is it just a number?
Is it just a transaction, and is it just money? And that's kind of, being in the, I was definitely a team builder. I am all about teams, because when your team is strong, you are strong and you are successful. You look good when your team looks good. But you also have to be very conscious of the money behind what it takes to build a great team and whatnot. And that is definitely a balance, whether you have 5 employees or you have 20,000 employees.
Right.
My team in the restaurant industry was typically 25 to 45 people. And, managing that and making sure that they knew that I had their best interest at heart, but also I had a bottom line, because I had a job to keep too.
Well, and that's the thing.
And that's what we're trying to say is, as a business owner, you are the bottom line. So how do you keep that balance and stay aware of what's going on in your local community, and taking care of your people at the same time? It's a very fine line. So,
and if you're out there and you don't have an accountant, you don't have somebody that you can call the tax office.
Yes.
Megan, be happy to talk to you about
I love
these
talking
things.
about this stuff.
Yeah, get some advice, get some things, consultations and stuff. You should. If you have an accountant, if you have somebody that you trust to talk to about this, get on the phone and talk to them.
Absolutely.
See what's coming. How's that going to affect you? Make sure you're budgeting. Put this in your plan. This is coming.
Yeah. So the first increase,
2022, right?
2022 is it'll be that next increase to get us to that $12 mark. So right now we're at $10.30. So if you have employees not making $10.30 an hour, make sure that you've got that in the works. That started January 1st of this year, and January 1st of the coming year, 2022, it will go up to $11.15.
Okay.
So.
There you go, folks.
Yep.
Megan, as always, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Interesting
I can
conversation.
talk about this stuff for hours.
Hey, that's what we're here for. That's what we want to do. We'll be back every 2 weeks. We're doing this. We're talking about these things. We'll continue to bring information that we hope that will help and inform you as a micro business owner, as a small business owner, local, state, everything that's going on in the state of Missouri. We want to make sure that we're on top of, because that's where we do business.
Because it affects us too.
Yeah.
And you.
Exactly. So thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great day in the Lord, and we'll see you next time.